Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So for today's head-to-head comparison, I want to compare the original BMW M4 with the current generation. This is the 2024 BMW M competition. I've borrowed both of these M4s from 704 Exotics, so definitely take a look at their website. That link is down in the description. They're always getting in some very cool inventory, so definitely take a look. But today, let's start off with the OG, the original BMW M4, where this came out in 2014. It was offered in both a coupe and a convertible as well. The MSRP for these started right around $65,000, and this is powered by a 3-liter twin power turbo inline 6 paired to a 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission with 425 horsepower, 406 pound-feet of torque. For the BMW M4, these have a starting MSRP in the mid $70,000 range. The M4 is still powered by that 3-liter twin power turbo inline 6. This, however, is paired to an 8-speed M Steptronic automatic transmission with 523 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. Now, when the M4 came out, this was not offered with all-wheel drive. So this is rear-wheel drive versus the X-Drive all-wheel drive. However, you still can get rear-wheel drive for the base M4. The curb weights, we have 3,900 pounds for the latest generation, 3,500 for the original M4. So it has gained weight over the years. 0 to 60, 3.4 seconds for the newest generation, just over 4 seconds for the original. And then a top speed 155, which most modern BMWs are electronically limited to. However, with the M Sport and some of those packages, top speed is closer to 180. So let's work our way to the exterior styling now, where the biggest difference is that kidney grille. Check out the size difference between the original, where we have the LED headlights with a really nice thin upper housing there. So they match nicely with the size of that grille. Plenty of cutouts in the lower section. There's also parking sensors too. This model also has some aftermarket goodies. So there's the carbon fiber, which is aftermarket, but it looks like it could be factory. And then look at the size of the kidney grille now. Much larger, larger inlets in the lower section. There's some more inlets on both sides. We have a forward-facing camera along with those parking sensors. And then the headlight housings are fairly similar. You'll notice that instead of having a larger U-shape for those DRLs, it's just kind of a half C-shape now, but we have updated technology, of course. And then hood lines are very different. And this vehicle is lowered, so that throws it off a little bit with the ground clearance. And then as we work our way to the side, I think both have a really nice set of wheels. We have the M Sport brakes on both of these. You can get different colors for the brake calipers. Usually they are blue, however, you can get black there. And of course, just a new design, something different for these wheels. They both have the M4 badge just behind the tire as well. Turn signals and a nice trim accent are on those mirrors. We have turn signals and then that added camera for the 360 view. Now you'll notice too that over on the original M4, there's carbon fiber for the entire roof. So that has stayed the same throughout all of the years, coming standard with that carbon fiber roof. And then I know a lot of people are going to like the styling of the original M4. Personally, I think it looks really good. You wouldn't really expect this to be 10 years old until you put it right next to the 2024. Now they still have similar body lines going down the side, just a little bit different of a height. And as you can tell, the new M4 is a little bit larger. Back windows still appear to be about the same, but they have very, very similar design elements. Just some tweaks over the years. Now, as we work our way to the back, I'm not sure if this is aftermarket or not. I believe it is with that carbon fiber. But we have the nice housings for the taillights, backup camera with all these sensors, carbon fiber, and that quad tip dual exhaust down below. Now, as we work our way to the back, this model does have some goodies in it at the moment. We have the stock suspension and some other components, but the back seats do still fold down. So as you can tell, you can fit in a lot of items for this vehicle. So it makes it very, very practical as a sports car to drive this around and place in items that you would like to. So we get that same thing over on the latest generation. However, we have all the gloss black accents that you can see throughout, LED taillights, backup camera and sensor. For this trunk lid, we do have that small trunk mounted spoiler, but we also have the power liftgate. So you have those options now, and this is about the same space that you see in the original M4. Being able to fold those back seats down as well just makes it, again, that much more practical. So let's work our way to the interior now. We will start off with the original M4, where we have a very nice interior for this model. Obviously, there are different color options available, but for this model, we have your normal window adjustments, a little bit of storage with the Harman Kardon sound system. So that is still retained for the models today. Memory seating adjustments are down on the side, and then these seats are automatic. Now, when you push it forwards, it will not move forwards like in the newer models. So you do have to move it forwards from there. But let's hop into the back at 5'10" and see any of the differences back here. Appears to be a good amount of legroom there. You have climates and auxiliaries. There's also an armrest, a little bit of storage in the middle. You can't fold the middle portion of the seat down. So they do have a 60-40 split to them. And then honestly, at 5'10", I'm just touching the headliner, but I could comfortably ride in the back here. So it's functional for a full-size adult if you needed to ride back here in a pinch, and then you can easily get out, and then you do have to move this seat back by yourself here and lock it into place. But there's the M badge in the middle. Nice lateral supports for these seats too. And then as we hop in, it takes you back. It looks like a modern BMW, just with a few tweaks here and there. We have the M Sport steering wheel, paddle shifters on both sides, even M1 and M2. Listen to that exhaust as we put it into the sport mode settings there. So we have your voice commands, volume as well. Very simple gauge cluster with some info in the lower section there, and then everything else is an analog setting there. You still have a little bit of storage on this left side there, your headlight adjustments, even a head-up display. And then for the infotainment system, this is not touch screen, so you do have to use all the controls down below. Or you have your navigation, you can get into your menu to go through all of this. So you just have to figure out how to use it with it not being a touchscreen system, but it seems pretty usable for what is available. You have a CD player, all of your presets. This even has heated seats, dual zone for the temperature, which is impressive to see. And then let's take a look at what's down below. A little bit of storage there with some auxiliaries. You have cup holders. And then on this left side, there's traction control. If you push on this button, this is for efficiency, sport, and sport plus, so you can change that. There's also adjustments for the suspension and the steering too. I believe the first one is for the transmission. There's also a camera button, so you can pull that up, where it looks like we do maybe have a 360 view there with that top-down view. So that's actually pretty cool to see for this. There's parking sensors, and then we have a similar design for the shifter with reverse and drive. For this model though, there's no park. So just put it into neutral, pull on the e-brake, and then you can shut it off. Where there's also the engine start stop feature as well. And then there's also storage in the armrest with a little bit of space, and the glove box has more storage. And there's even factory carbon fiber trim accents for the interior. We have some buttons up top and dome lights, and this is a look at visibility over both shoulders. So you can still even see out of that window there. And then as we work our way to the modern day BMW M4, you will notice that for this model, we have a much different interior, of course. Same Harman Kardon, there's brushed aluminum. Memory seats now are on the door panel. There's a trunk release, a little bit more storage down below. And the biggest difference is that when you fold that seat, it now moves for you. So that's one less thing that you have to worry about. And once we're in the back, we have a few more climate adjustments, about the same amount of space, a little bit of storage with an armrest. You don't have anything in the middle here, but you can actually fold down this middle. So if you want a little bit higher of an armrest, or you need to put in some longer items, that split does make it a little bit more versatile. And at my height, it's honestly about the same. I have the armrest, my head is just up against the headliner there. So it's not bad. Both of them seem to be about the same if you needed to put somebody in that back seat. But now, as you can tell, we have a much different layout for this model. Now I have a full video on this exact M4 comp. So if you want to see everything in greater details, definitely take a look at that video. We have larger paddles. M1 and M2 are more prominent versus being on one side, where we have some similar controls for your cruise control and everything like that. But now this has a digital gauge cluster. So you can go through a little bit more information as far as all of the content that you can scroll through, and then you can even adjust the head-up display and go through that. Now you can also go into an M mode, so you can change the entire tack and gauge cluster depending on how you would like to drive. So obviously a lot more versatile and configurable than on the original. You still have storage, same headlight adjustments in the same spot there, ambient lighting for this model. And then you have the touchscreen system, but you still have that same dial down below. So for those who, if maybe you're upgrading from that to this and you are used to using that, you can still go through this and feel comfortable using the control since you already know how to use it. But now if you want, you can actually use it as a touchscreen system and continue to go through this info. So obviously kind of similar, but now we have a larger screen to view that information, and it's even larger for the backup camera. So the graphics are much clearer and you can see a lot better surrounding that. Gear shifter though is the same design. However, there is park on the backside now. There's air vents as well as power and volume. You have wireless charging, of course, cup holders, some auxiliaries there, and then traction control, forward-facing camera, so you do not have that on the original. Parking sensors, engine start stop. You have exhaust note button. You can even set up M1 and M2 a little bit easier going through that entire screen. There's room in the armrest here, as well as in the glove box, of course. And then up top, we have some lights, garage door buttons, and about the same amount of visibility. So that really hasn't changed, even looking out that window there as well. But of course, you can tell it's a lot more modern feeling. And personally, I do like this interior better, but I am interested in driving the original M4. It's going to be a lot more raw feeling, I think. So with the exteriors and interiors out of the way, let's get these out on the road and see how they compare. As we set off now behind the wheel for the first generation M4, this is the first time that I've driven the first generation M4. I have a lot more experience in the second generation. Let's put it into second gear. Obviously, this one has some modifications done to it, so you can hear the turbo under the engine. You can hear that loud exhaust. This definitely has that raw feeling to it that I personally like. If you're looking for something that just is going to give you that drama, it still feels like it's refined in a sense, but we can put everything into Sport Plus here. Man, you can really bring this to life with some modifications. I'm not exactly sure what is done to this, but it puts a smile on your face. Just the raw characteristics of it, and even if you put everything back into the efficiency setting or normal, now it just kind of feels like a traditional vehicle. But with this being rear wheel drive, obviously you have to be a little bit more careful with it since it doesn't have the all-wheel drive system. And the all-wheel drive system wasn't available until the second generation. So all you had was the rear-wheel drive version. And it's fun to drive. Just got to be careful, of course, with that rear wheel. But just toning it back, it feels like a normal vehicle. So it's nice that you still have these adjustments. It's a lot quicker to go through, I feel. Obviously, you can set them up with M1 and M2 there. And it is much different to drive with the dual clutch. So like in parking lot situations and things like that, it's just a little bit different of a feel compared to the second generation. So with that dual clutch, it is something to get used to as far as not being on the brake or actually engaging the clutch, giving it some gas, not just trying to creep forward and things like that. But as far as driving the first generation M4, this is a lot of fun. If you're not looking for a lot of that technology, which personally I think is cool, but being in an older school like this is a driver's car that you can just focus on driving. You have the drive modes that you can adjust as needed, but boy, is this fun to drive. Woo! All right, let's hop into the second gen M4. And behind the wheel now for the second gen M4. Obviously right off the bat, you can tell that this is so much different, and it's also a lot more refined feeling. Being 10 years newer, of course, there's been a lot of technological advances as far as just everything with the mechanics of the vehicle, how it drives, the suspension. This transmission is a lot smoother. I feel like it is a lot quicker. The dual clutch in the first gen is a little bit more on the clunky end, but it gives you more of that drama being an old school car, having that dual clutch. It's something that is just part of the characteristics of that M4. For this generation, it is a lot smoother, and the refinements in it, a little bit more daily driver friendly, I would say. You could absolutely daily drive a first gen M4. I know a lot of people do that. So it kind of just boils down to what are you looking to do with the car. Obviously this one is completely stock, so you could liven it up. You could do the same or similar modifications as the first gen that we were just in. But the refinements, a lot quieter, a lot smoother, even with the suspension settings. And again, that one had a different suspension system in it, so I'm sure stock for stock, it would be a lot closer in feel. And we do have the all-wheel drive system now, which you can still get a base M4. You can get a manual transmission, just like in the first gen. You can get rear-wheel drive with that, or all-wheel drive. So we have a few different configurations now compared to the first gen there. You can still get a coupe or a convertible too. And it's tough. I don't know which one I like better. I do like some of the modern tech in this, but I do like the more raw feeling drive and the characteristics of the first gen M4. So back from our test drives now with the first and second generation BMW M4. They have completely different handling and driving characteristics. Obviously this one having a different suspension is part of that, but overall this has a lot more of a raw driving experience than the second generation. A lot more refinements, a lot more daily driver friendly as more of a grand touring vehicle, still able to do back mountain roads, track driving, performance driving like that. But the original M4 has more of that old school and more of that raw driving characteristic that I grew up with some of the older vehicles. I still like both of them though. Comment down below, which one would you take and why? The OG M4 is definitely very popular. A newer one is just as popular, and they both have several modifications that you can do with both of them, just depending on what you want to do with your car. Honestly, that was a lot of fun. I think I would have a little bit more fun, especially with how that is set up, how it just livens it up. But you could do the same thing with the second gen as well. So comment down below, let me know which M4 you would take home and why. And again, I have a full review video on the latest generation, so check that out for more details. Give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.